Hi everyone, welcome to today's Ask Hala webinar. We're going to give people a few more minutes to join, but if you could go ahead and let us know your name and where you're joining us from in the comments, in the chat box. See. Okay, I see we've got somebody from Palestine. That's where I'm at too. Right. Muhammad Farhan, where are you joining us from, Muhammad? I think we have Saida from Yemen. Great. Yeah. Okay, Muhammad from Baghdad, welcome. And Ra'id from Qatar. It's great, we've got so many countries represented already. For those of you who have just joined, we're going to give people a couple more minutes. And if you could just share with us your name and where you're joining us from. Just put it in the chat. Oh, great, we've got somebody from Malaysia, Alexandra from Macedonia, Samia from Tunisia, welcome. Asma from Egypt, Iman from Qatar, Neda from Lebanon. Welcome, all of you. It's a really exciting topic we've got today. You can see we've got Hashim who's joined us as well. Saran from Kurdistan. Ibtihal from Egypt. It's great. I bet you're all just excited as I am for this topic. Riham from Egypt. Abdullah from Baghdad, Abdurrahman from Jordan, Samah from Egypt. Great. I wonder, is this everyone's, have you all joined Ask Hala webinars before, or is this your first one? More and more people. We've got Hashim from Libya, Huthaina from Morocco, Wadad from Iraq, Shaymat, Kurdistan, Murad from Saudi Arabia. Oh. We'll get started in just a moment, everyone. Let's give people one more minute to join. You know how bad the internet connection can be in many of our countries, so let's give them just another minute before we get started. I can see for some of you it's here. Many of you have joined before these webinars. That's good. I think once you join one of them, you get hooked and you have to join them all. Each one's a different topic. But some people it's their first. Trust me, after this, you're going to start joining them with us every month. Okay. Welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the Ask Hala webinar series. This episode is about using dialogue in the classroom for positive debates. I'm sure a topic that many of you are interested in. This webinar series is designed for teachers from the Middle East and North Africa. And you can find all of the previous webinars on the British Council MENA's YouTube channel. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Rana Badwan. I'm from Palestine. As well as my colleagues, we have Noura, who's based in Bahrain, Amira from Egypt, Asil Al-Masri, who's one of our community of practice leaders and a very experienced teacher educator who just started teaching with us at the British Council in Egypt. And of course, our host, Hala Ahmed, who has a wide range of experience and is currently the head of our English programs in Egypt. Before we get started with today's webinar, I want to share with you a couple of updates and reminders about other British Council CPD opportunities that you can take advantage of. We're currently running a MOOC on FutureLearn called Online Skills for 21st Century Teachers. Registration for it closes on August 8th, so you've still got a little bit over a week to register if you're interested in that. And then also on August 8th, registration opens, or the course goes live for our Exploring Inclusive Pedagogies course. And that's also on FutureLearn. And then we have our Gender in Language Teacher Education webinar on August 9th with Laura McWilliams. And then you can join our next Ask Hala webinar on August 25th. The title of it is So You Think You Can Become a Teacher Educator. So lots going on in August. I'm going to go ahead now and hand over to our host, Hala Ahmed, who will start the webinar for us. Over to you, Hala.
Thanks very much, Rana, for the lovely introduction, and I hope everybody will register for MOOC. It's a very interesting topic and very interesting content, guaranteed benefit. And welcome everybody. I'm so pleased that the teachers are joining us from different parts of the Middle East and North Africa, even from parts from outside the region, from Malaysia, and other countries. So everybody, welcome to the webinar, whether you're a newcomer to the webinar and this is your first time, or whether you're a recurrent attendee to our webinars. I hope you enjoy the webinar today, and please interact with us and share your ideas and thoughts through the chat box so that we can have a very useful webinar today. So our topic today is about using dialogue in the classroom for positive debates. So let's have a look at our today's learning aims. We'll be looking today at the pros and cons, or the advantages and disadvantages of using a debate in classrooms. We'll also look at the differences between a debate and a dialogue, the importance of building dialogue skills, the features of a healthy dialogic class, and some practical ideas to boost dialogue in the classroom. Let me ask you a question first before we get into details. Can you tell us in the chat box about how often you integrate debates into your teaching? And on the screen, you can see a scale of frequency. So look at the scale and think about your teaching practices and tell us about how often you integrate debates into your teaching. Debates as a speaking activity, of course. Is it never? Is it rarely? Occasionally? Sometimes? Is it always? Is it usually?
We're starting to get some answers in. We've got Sarah saying sometimes, Samir is saying generally. Hajar saying often. Ra'id says usually. Got another person who's saying usually. Miriam says not so often, actually. Zohra from Bahrain is saying always. So we've also got somebody saying rarely. I've got the full spectrum.
Nice. Right. Yeah. So we've got a variety of answers. It seems you guys are using debates into your teaching practices at different levels and different degrees. So we're expecting to get like wonderful input from you today, different levels of experiences, different stories to tell. So let's crack on. Now, when you plan for a debate in your teaching and you'd like to make a debate as part of your lesson, what teachers think debates would be like versus what debates could be like in reality? So in my experience, when I used to plan for debates in my lessons, this is the ideal picture I would have in my mind while planning. So students are sitting quietly and peacefully. They're exchanging ideas and thoughts. Everybody's happy. I'm sitting in the middle of the circle, organizing very confidently the flow of ideas. But sometimes debates in reality would be like something like this. People started to be heated and emotional, and they started to defend desperately about their thoughts, and things don't go as planned, really. So is this also true in your teaching experience? There is a big difference between what you plan for and what happens in reality. Tell us in the chat box. And how much do your students benefit from debates? You think they benefit a lot, they benefit a little, they don't benefit at all? So think about these two questions and write your answers in the chat box.
Hala, have you ever actually had people get into a fight like that during a debate?
Yeah, not a fight, not exact as the picture, but people, yeah, sometimes in my classes, people get very emotional and they get angry with each other, and they start to feel disappointed when they lose the debate. And the tricky part is that I find myself usually in a very difficult situation, having to declare who the winners are or who won the debate. So I feel like, and sometimes I concluded the debates with nothing. Like I wouldn't dare to say who the winners were or who the losers were. I would just conclude the debate with a positive note, and that's it. But sometimes, yes, people, and sometimes students kept debating even after the class finishes, and they take the debate outside the class and they continue debating and arguing.
Definitely. We've got.
Do we have? Yeah.
Yeah, it can get pretty heated, can't it? We've got Nada is saying around 70% of the time. I guess it's true in her teaching experience. Zuhra is saying it happens a lot, but Sarah is saying it doesn't happen in hers. Sherihan is saying that they believe that their students benefit a lot. Samir is saying that because he teaches girls, that girls have a different way when it comes to debates. Be interesting to hear a little bit more about that. May is saying that things do go a little bit different than how she plans, but kids usually love it, and they get to know each other more through those debates. Sarah is saying that she thinks they benefit as well. Murad says sometimes there are disagreements, but he tries to remind them that it's not about winning and losing. So some different perspectives.
Cool. Yes, please go on.
I was going to say, Riham is mentioning that debates with clear instructions can help the students to express themselves well and encourage them to listen and respect opinions of others. I think that might be something we're going to look at.
Cool. It's good to hear different voices from our teachers today, and they have different reflections on using debates in the classrooms. It seems that some are enjoying them, but some are not enjoying them, and some feel confident about doing them, but some feel less confident about it. So let's listen to more voices from teachers on the ground from our colleague Asil today. Asil, did you discuss the topic with your community of practice, your group of teachers, and do you have any insightful ideas today?
Yes, so I asked them how far do they integrate dialogues and debates into their teaching, and they said occasionally. And and I asked them also from their experience, which do students find more useful? Is it dialogues or debates? They said debates, and I agree because sometimes when you have a bigger classroom, so bigger students, debates are more useful to use when you're teaching larger classrooms because you can have a big number of students so that it's easier. But with dialogues, it can be very time consuming if you have two students doing a dialogue and then you have to wait for them to finish and then the next one moves on. So this is why they prefer using debates because it's easier to organize and there are structures they have to follow when they're doing a debate. There are rules, there's a certain timer, but it also have some disadvantages because there are some students where they prefer to be on the, for example, four instead of the other side, and they feel like, okay, I don't know what to say in this topic. I don't know how to express it, or I don't have an opinion. So it can be challenging. Whereas dialogues, it's easier because it's just simple things, simple sentences. They're just talking about any topic they would like to talk about.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that depends on our understanding and definition of dialogues versus debates. Debates are good because they are planned, perhaps structured, as you said. They have rules, as you said. But who said that dialogues are not planned and structured as well, right? Yeah, and dialogue and there are definitely some benefits behind using debates in the classroom, but it's really important to be mindful and cautious about also the downsides of using debates in classrooms, especially in some specific context where the one classroom can comprise people who have different political views, for example, people who come from different backgrounds, people who have different faith or religions. So I think debates could cause more harm than benefit if the teacher is not mindful and aware of the drawbacks of the debates.
I think when we choose the topic, it makes it easier, the choice of the topic. If we choose a topic that they can easily talk about, that's when we know that we won't be crossing any line, or the students will be able to express knowing that it's a safe area to talk about, that no one will be offended or criticized or any of such sorts. Dialogues, as you mentioned, yes, it can be organized because we always give students time to plan and write down what they want to say and then practice saying that as well.
That's very true. That's very true, Asil. I mean, avoiding controversial topics could be a safety net for avoiding conflicts during debates. But isn't debates about controversy, right? So if we avoid controversial topics, so I think we're condensing debates to superficial exchange of ideas and opposing ideas or to opposing sides of an argument. However, trainings in some countries where there were some political instability, and even though the topics I proposed in the training sessions were simple and non-controversial, but because people know each other and people know that they come from different backgrounds and people know that they belong to different political parties, even disagreeing on simple topics wasn't really tolerated in the training room. Do you see what I mean? So
Yes.
the structure
Like
and the nature of
chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla.
exactly.
Like
I
that.
can hate you. I can hate you for disagreeing on my choice, or because I know in advance that you come from a specific social background or a specific political or even religion background. Do you see what I mean?
Indeed.
And we'll
Yes.
come into details and talk about the nature and the art of debate and why the nature of debating itself can cause this conflict. But thanks very much, Asil. I think
Thank
you
you.
provided some insightful input from your group of teachers. Rana, how is the chat box going?
We've got a lot of talk around how the importance of planning, something around what you and Asil were discussing, and also the benefit of debates in terms of giving students the opportunity to share their ideas and their opinions, and that motivating them to speak and to try and use language to express those ideas and opinions. And just to encourage them it can help them feel more confident because they're talking about something that they feel passionately about.
Right. Let's have a look at what the key ELT figures in the world are saying about debates and dialogues, and what also the research says about that. So NiK Peachey is an ELT material developer and teacher trainer, and he's very well known in the ELT world, in English language teaching and learning world. And he wrote a very interesting article about the bad side of debates. So let's have a look at what NiK Peachey said. In his article said that debates are confrontational. They revolve usually around setting up opposing opinions. That's the nature, that's the technicality of a debate. So in a debate, you set two groups and you assign two opposing positions to each group. Then students are set as rivals. They have to play the role of rivals. This is the nature of a debate. And each group has to defend desperately their opposing views against each other. So that's the definition of a debate. He thinks also that in debates, there must be winners and losers. And debates involve constructing sound arguments. Yes, I mean, you have to construct a sound argument, but also while you present your strong argument, you need to undermine the arguments of the others. So you need to prove that you are right and what the others are saying is nonsense. This situation doesn't lead to clear understanding. So we're not really moving towards identifying the concept of something or understanding the concept of something. We're just trying to prove ourselves right and the other is wrong. Debates in their nature are fast-paced. And so people who are more aggressive and competitive can win debates. So if you're this kind of person who doesn't want to compete or doesn't enjoy competitions in general, or you'd like to take your own time to digest information and think thoroughly about it, you're not going to enjoy debates. But debates are very enjoyable for those who are competitive and fast and aggressive a little bit. So this situation as well doesn't help the students with understanding the truth. So if we'd like to identify the truth of something, or if you'd like to analyze the concept of something, this situation doesn't allow for this. Debates in nature are heated and emotional. I want to win. I want to prove the other wrong. And this usually results in less clarity of thought, because you can't think straight and you can't think with clarity if you're emotional, right? And this also can increase polarization, and we have enough polarization in the world. Like, I'm the only person who's right in this room, or we are the most truthful group of people in the world, or this country is like the strongest country in the world, or we have the ultimate right to do this and that. What does research say about this? There is a study done in 2012, the study titled as Assigned Positions for In-Class Debates Influence Student Opinions. So I don't ask about your opinion, I just put you into groups, Group A and Group B, and I assign a position for Group A and a position for Group B, regardless of how the two groups really feel or what the two groups really think. So Group A is assigned the position of being against using technology. Group B is assigned the position of being for using technology, and that's it. And each group has to defend this view. Emily Lilly, who did this study, thinks that, or found that, assigning positions to student debaters significantly interfered with the students' abilities to come to their own conclusions based on their research. So your opinion doesn't matter. The research you're doing doesn't matter. Your conclusions based on your thinking and your research do not matter. This is all covered and this is all swayed away by the position I'm assigning to you to defend. And she did a study. In the study, 41% of the students, before engaging in the debate, happened by coincidence to agree with the assigned position to them. After they involved in the debate, 77% of the students started to agree with the assigned position. So 41 only agreed or were satisfied with the assigned position, with the point of view assigned to me and the point of view I'm required to defend. But after I engaged in the actual debate, 77, not 41, 77% started to adopt something else other than their real opinion. So it can affect their opinion. It can affect their own conclusions and thinking. This study was published later in the International Journal of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, and this study actually raised the questions around how debates can sway opinions. It can actually influence your opinion, sway it away, and replace it with something else. Lily as well thinks that watching debates on TV, especially the political debates or any other debates, can lead the students to learn how to cherry pick evidence. Like the meaning of cherry picking evidence is that I only select the evidence that goes well with my point of view.
I think that point.
Sorry,
right
Rana,
there.
I was on mute. I was saying that cherry picking evidence means I select the piece of evidence that goes well and satisfies my opinion, and I ignore anything else.
I have to say, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, before we check on the chat box again, another study in 2007 published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, actually, found out that repetition of an opinion increases its popularity. And I think you can relate to this one if you think about social media. So if there is a trend on social media, or if there is a trend on Facebook or something, people started to adopt this trend only because it's getting popular by the time. So this study suggests that the students may have been drawn to the position or to a specific opinion only because it became familiar, only because it's winning in every debate, only because it's winning in every discussion, right? So this what the research thinks about the danger of promoting for debates in classrooms. Rana, you wanted to say something.
I think I mean, this study, I guess, raises a lot of important points, and it's just a reminder about how impressionable people are. I mean, this is, I guess, similar to if somebody likes a certain football player or a certain actor, then they'll want to, you know, they'll try to do whatever that person does and copy them in whatever way. And I've never really thought about it with debates, that by holding a debate in our class, that we could actually end up changing students' opinions based on what side we assign them to. It's a little bit scary, actually. I wonder what
yeah,
others
exactly. And
think.
exactly, it is scary when, especially when this is backed up with evidence from research. I mean, this is a journal about personality and social psychology, and you know, and even the study that is done by Emily Lilly above, it says that there is like a 30%, maybe even more than 30% increase in the students who change their opinion after getting into debates. I think some students and the adults in general can lose the idea that debates are artificial. Sometimes, I mean, you can set up a debate in a classroom and you intend to have it artificial and you don't intend to change anybody's opinion. But it happens that when people get involved and indulge in these discussions, they happen to change their opinion, even subconsciously. Right. Okay, so do we have any interesting contributions from the audience today, Rana?
Miriam's just mentioned that she likes to make students argue for the opposite opinion that they really believe in. That's what she learned in college. And I wonder if maybe that's a way of getting them to explore something that they hadn't looked at before and do research kind of on the other side a little bit as well. We've had some people mention that they find it difficult, that their students find it difficult to communicate their ideas, and questions about how to increase students' participation in debates. But I do wonder what people think about this research piece, and if it surprises them at all, or if they've experienced that with any of their learners, or even with themselves when they've been in a debate.
What about young learners? Like, is there a certain age group that when you can start presenting debate for students? I mean, with maybe young learners, is it easier for them than with adults, or younger, like you know, like the age basically? When is it best to do debate with them?
I think you can. Here is the thing, actually. Do we want to plant this in young age? Do we want to plant this seed in young learners? Do we want to encourage them to argue and cherry pick evidence and to prove themselves right while proving the other wrong all the time to win an argument? Do we want to do this? Or do we want to create more of a conversational learning environment based on dialogue and the mutual understanding? If the answer is the latter, like we do want to boost a culture of understanding, tolerance, and analytic discussions, for the sake of understanding and deep understanding of each other's situation. If we want to do this, I think we can adapt our teaching and learning materials to whatever age group we're dealing with. I mean, I used to teach young learners, and in young learner classes, I can have a conversation, round table discussion about what do you have for breakfast every day, and what flavor of cereal do you prefer? Do you prefer chocolate cereal? Do you prefer fruit cereal? Do you like to have cold milk on it? Warm milk? And we start to have a round table discussion. All opinions are welcome. All ideas are right. There is no right or wrong answer. Rather than cold milk is cool, but warm milk is bad, you know, and this doesn't take us to anything apart from they develop their skills to argue and win an argument. I'm not sure if this is a life skill needed for young learners. What do you think, Rana, and what does our audience think about this part?
So I'm not sure if I agree entirely, actually. I mean, I think there is value in from a young age learning to find evidence to support your opinion and to be able to express it, and to kind of try and develop that logical argument the way you need to in a debate. I think my big issue with debates is this idea of a winner and loser, because I think in real life, usually there is no clear winner or loser when it comes to debates. But I think there is value in learning the skills, both in terms of language skills and that communication way of communicating, of developing a logical argument to support your opinion. I'm not sure that it needs to start at a very young age. I think you'd have to choose your topics really carefully and think about how to set it up. But I think there might be some value in doing it in some format. Abdullah Ibrahim is saying that he doesn't think there needs to be an age requirement and that you can start with kids. Neda's mentioned that it needs to be an authentic debate and to let students stick with their opinion. Somebody else has also mentioned anonymously that debates should be a space of freedom for students to express themselves. And this idea of a debate possibly changing somebody's opinion is very scary, which I definitely agree with. Somebody else has mentioned that they think it can enhance life skills, especially when you think about critical thinking.
That's very interesting. I mean, critical thinking. If we agree to promote critical thinking and life soft skills in the classroom, we are automatically now moving away from debates, because debates aren't about critical thinking. Debates are about blindly defending a position that is assigned to you. So that's not critical thinking. So when I say you must defend that Mohamed Salah is the best player in the world, for example, you need to defend this blindly without using your brain, without doing your research, without doing any critical thinking at all. And back to the point, I think you mentioned Muhammad Ibrahim talking about allowing students to share their opinions and expressing themselves. Again, if we want to do this, we need to move away from debates, because debates aren't about speaking up your mind or aren't about sharing what you really think. It's about defending an idea that is given to you. I think the more we talk about the benefits of whether debate or dialogue, the more we unveil the downsides of debates. The more if we think about the definition of a debate and what a debate in its nature, by definition, can cause to the students and the classroom environment, we will start to reconsider shifting away towards dialogues and leaving debate a little bit. So the research suggests that dialogues rather than debates can help improve this situation. So how can we use dialogue to help improving the situation? It's not shouting at each other and proving each other wrong, and it's not us versus them. This is debates. Actually, this is simply what debates are about. It's either us or them. It's either we win and they lose, right? So I'll let you now watch a video about the importance of building and teaching dialogue skills in the classroom. And let us know in the chat box, please, if you can't hear the sound or if you can't watch the video.
Much of the communication we engage in and teach our learners focuses on teaching them how to express themselves and convey their thoughts, ideas, needs and desires. There is nothing wrong with this, and it is definitely necessary. What we often neglect is to develop learners' ability to build dialogue in order to better understand the opinions, views and thoughts of others. I'm sure that most of us have at some time facilitated a classroom debate between learners and tried to develop their linguistic ability to agree and disagree in English. Typically, in a formal debate, there are opposing sides that offer different opinions and try to persuade others that they have better or stronger arguments than their opponents. These are some of the common characteristics of these debates. They are often fast-paced, with learners working against a time limit. Debaters are often passionate about their views and can be quite emotional in the way they express them. They often end with winners and losers. Learners often raise their voices to be heard over their opponents. They are confrontational in nature, with groups taking up opposing positions. Although the process of debating usually involves formulating sound logical arguments, it also involves undermining the views of others. Successful debaters are often those who are more confident and competitive in nature, and people who are able to think and respond quickly. Informal debates in the classroom can lead to bad feelings and frustration. Despite all of this, it is also true that many debaters do enjoy these kinds of debates, and in many educational systems there is a culture of debating, supported by clubs and international competitions. Debate is very different from dialogue, and in many ways can be viewed as the opposite of dialogue. So how is dialogue different from this model? In dialogue, we reverse the process. The aim of dialogue is less to express our own views and more about exploring and developing a better understanding of the views of others. Dialogue is a collaborative process that involves the two people in helping each other to both understand and express their views more clearly. This is done through a process of asking open questions and summarizing your understanding of the views of others rather than promoting your own views. Dialogue takes place in a much less pressured environment, and people involved in dialogue take their time for thought and reflection. Slowing down the interaction and taking the pressure off helps to reduce the emotional element and helps learners to think and express themselves more clearly. Dialogue encourages learners to find common ground in their beliefs and opinions and helps them work together to resolve issues. Although dialogue may not always end in agreement, it does help learners understand that we can share our ideas and be open to the ideas of others, whether we agree with them or not, and still respect each other and be friends at the end of the process. An ability to understand and build dialogue with others has benefits that extend beyond the language classroom and into our learners' everyday lives. Using the techniques of dialogue can help learners avoid misunderstandings and conflict with others. It can help them improve their relationships with others. It can help them express their own ideas more clearly and calmly, and so help to reduce their levels of stress and anxiety.
So I hope now you could identify the benefits of using dialogues over debates. And back to Muhammad Ibrahim's point about we'd like students to express themselves and share their opinions freely. So that is dialoguing. If there is a word called dialoguing, so that's dialogue, debate. So how do we set up a healthy dialogic classes? How to get our dialogic classes right? And what does healthy dialogic talk look like in the classroom? So there are roles or features for the students or learners, and there are roles and features for the teacher. So learners will share a common goal or purpose. So the main aim of dialogues and discussions and this spoken interaction between the students is to reach to a common goal or purpose and focus on similarities rather than differences. Learners allow each other to speak. So there are soft skills embedded in the dialogue process, such as the turn taking, for example. So if I'd like to express my opinion clearly, I'd like others to allow me time to think and speak clearly about my opinion. But also, I'd like also to allow the others to have the same opportunity to think and speak clearly about how they think. Learners ask questions in order to understand better. So it's not like presentations in the debates. So you assign time to Group A. Group A has got a couple of minutes to defend their ideas. Then you stop. Then you ask Group B to have a couple of minutes to defend the idea, and you stop them when the run time's out. So it's like one-way communication. It's a kind of presentation mode. But in dialogues, learners are allowed to ask questions to get more clarification about something. So they ask questions to understand. Learners paraphrase or reflect back each other's words. So in order to ensure your understanding, you can paraphrase what somebody else said, and you can echo what somebody else has said, because you want to ensure you understand, you want to check your understanding. Learners are prepared to express uncertainty or tentativeness. That's absolutely fine. If you say, I'm not sure about this, I'm very uncertain about this, perhaps, probably, maybe, rather than I know this for a fact, or I believe this strongly. And I find this skill quite useful in everyday life. I think people who state facts come across to me as pushy and intimidating, if you like. So people who say, for example, Liverpool is going to win the match today. To me, this sounds a bit harsh, intimidating, and pushy, and fanatic. But people who say something like, I think Liverpool might have a chance to win today, or I think Liverpool will win the match today. These are more, these are more flexible. These are more welcoming. These are the people that you're likely to have a longer conversation with. Learners try to make their own point as clearly as possible. They have multiple opportunities to clarify the point, and they come back and forth to their points if they want to. Learners explore differences of opinion. They can freely say, I disagree with you, I have a different opinion. Learners give arguments to support their ideas. Of course, there are still arguments to support your ideas, but only to support your ideas, but not to prove that the other person's idea is ridiculous. What about the teacher's role? Dialogic teaching is as much about the teacher as the learner. So dialogic teaching involves the teacher as well as the learner. Both play important role and relates to teaching across the curriculum. Great dialogic teachers sees pupil as partners, right? These are not slaves, these are not students, they are partners in the learning process. Not just sitting passively receiving information you tell them. And in a dialogic classroom, if you're observing this lesson, you will probably hear something like questions being used to support thinking. So it's not just a flow of information or knowledge. It's also questions and inquiries. Pupils being encouraged to elaborate or add detail, of course. Both teachers and pupils are challenging the thinking of class members. Yes. Pupils being asked to give reasons, justify what they assert, and speculate. And I think speculate here is a key word. It's not just giving information, reasons, and justification, but also having time to think and speculate and criticize your own thinking as well as other people thinking and respond. People negotiating their position and changing their mind. It's absolutely fine while discussing a certain topic, you change positions like thinking positions. You change your mind. You think, I think I was wrong. I think after reading this article or after listening to you, I think I might change my mind in the future. I think I might change my way of doing this and that. It's absolutely fine because there are no winners, there are no losers, there is no right or wrong answer for anything. Rana, do we have any interesting comments coming from the audience?
Yes, there's been a lot actually, but I do want to say I think that video really helped to clarify the difference between a traditional debate and this idea of a dialogue. So I think a lot of people's comments about debates, what they're actually describing is as a dialogic class, like what you've been sharing with us. We had a comment earlier from Muntaha, who is saying, don't you think students have to learn to be diplomatic with the debates, which will prepare them to be tolerant? But again, I think there we're thinking more about probably this type of dialogic class, being diplomatic, sharing opinions.
Right. I think some of our teachers use debate and dialogues interchangeably, I think. But I think we all need to be careful about using the word debate after this webinar. Debate by definition doesn't allow for sharing your genuine, your real thoughts. It's about defending an idea as a group, whether you agree or disagree with the group. So I think when teachers praise debates as opportunities for promoting students' speaking skills or promoting students' soft skills about being diplomatic and showing respect, that is actually not a debate because in debates you're not diplomatic. I don't know, guys, if you have seen political debates on TV. The debaters are not diplomatic at all. The debaters are confrontational and they're telling each other something like you are corrupt or you are not suitable for this position or you are a weak candidate for this job. So this is not diplomatic by any means. This is very much confrontational. So I think we need to think carefully about using the term debate after this webinar.
Yeah. We have had a couple of, so there have been a couple of questions that you might want to comment on. One is around motivation. So Khalid's asking, what is motivational factors do you as a teacher use, I guess, to assist students' conversation? So how do you motivate them to engage with these debates? And then also Ali asked about or mentioned students who feel nervous in front of others. So is there something that you as a teacher can do to support students who feel nervous, or maybe who don't feel as motivated, or who are struggling with the language to communicate during one of these?
I think these are very interesting questions and very timely as well, because they just came in before I give ideas of practical ideas for the classroom. So, well, what I'm going to say really applies to speaking activities, dialogues, and everything else. Whenever you want the students to be motivated and really engaged and involved in whatever you're doing, start from their needs. So start thinking about their needs, their areas of interest, then tailor your teaching from there. So if you'd like to have a dialogue or a roundtable discussion in your classroom and you'd like everybody to participate enthusiastically, you need to think about the topics that really attracted the students' attention. Is it sports? Is it a local festival that's coming up very soon? Is it a concert for a very popular rock band in the country? Is it a trend on social media that's going viral and attracting everybody's attention? So think about what really interests them, and also think about the benefits the students are going to take away after this roundtable discussion or this dialogic activity. Are they going to apply this in their real life outside the class? The more they can apply these techniques outside the class and in the real life, the more they will be involved and encouraged to take part, because they think there is value, there is benefit, there is a link between what happens inside the classroom walls and what will happen in the real life. So students' interest, personalization, but also be mindful about their language level, adjust your content and adjust your task requirements to their age group, to their language level and proficiency, and also to their confidence. Back to the point about shy students or nervous students who don't want to be the focus of attention and who don't want to face a large group of people and talk to them. The answer is in dialogues and group discussions and group conversations and roundtable discussions. So there is no one representing the group. It's a contribution of everybody in the group. And also you can ask the students to give the output of the discussion in different formats. So they don't have, not everybody has to speak to give their opinion, right? So some students who are confident can speak and they give many presentations to show their opinion. Some other students can draw a poster. Some other students can write a list of tips or advice. Some other students can act, can mime. Some extremely super confident students can sing. So try to differentiate the outputs of the same task so that everybody has something to contribute, has something to say in their own way, in their own preferred learning strategy. I hope this answers these two questions. Rana, do you want to say anything before we move on to the practical part of the webinar?
I like this last point that you raised about having different ways that students can share their opinion, whether it be through a poster, acting, miming, singing. I think that's really, really important, because we often think it has to be them standing in front of the class, or standing up at their seat and you know, presenting almost their opinion, but there are other ways of doing it. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So moving on now to some practical, like I'll give you three practical ideas that you can implement in your classroom to boost dialogues and conversations and mutual understanding between students. First idea is a matching activity. So in order to successfully engage in dialogue, learners need to learn expressions or useful language and useful phrases for specific areas. Explaining, so what useful phrases they need to use to do some explaining, to explain their views and beliefs. And I think we all can relate to this. You want to say something, you want to clarify your position, you want to clarify your situation, but you don't know how to say this. You feel like the ideas are crammed into your mind, but you don't know how to bring them outside and tell them to somebody. Also, how to listen carefully and actively, and how to ask for more information, for more clarification. Also, summarizing the views of others to check they have understood them correctly. So somebody is speaking about something and you'd like to, again, to check you understood correctly, and you'd like to summarize what this person said to double check that you're on the right track. Agreeing to disagree, actually. So it's okay to disagree. It's okay if we have different views. It's fine. We don't have to agree, really, but we would like to disagree while showing respect for different opinions. What I want you to do now is to take this quiz. Noura, my colleague, is going to share this link the link will take you to a quiz where you find a matching activity or a grouping activity. Actually, you're going to group useful phrases and useful language under one of these four areas: explaining, asking for clarification, summarizing, agreeing, disagree. Noura, would you please share the link in the chat box? I'll give you a couple of minutes to finish the exercise and get back to us with your feedback.
Thanks, Hala. You know, as you were speaking, actually, I thought of another important thing when you're setting one of these up, kind of a practical thing to keep in mind. And that's to keep in mind that there might be students who don't have an opinion on the topic that you're setting for the dialogue, or that there might be a student or students who aren't familiar with the topic, especially if we're looking at as you mentioned before, a TikTok trend or a concert or a sporting event. While it might be that the overwhelming majority in the class are familiar with it, you have to have a way to help the students who are less familiar with it quickly understand what it's about.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, Rana, and I think you're touching on a very important point for teachers across the board, really, whether if we're talking today about dialogues or anything else. It's a scaffolding. You need to support your learners, but above all, you need to be very responsive and sensitive to the level of support you're giving them. So think about your learners as having different levels of abilities, different levels of language competencies, and think about the variety of support you can give them to survive a task. Are you going to give them more vocabulary? Are you going to give them more examples? Are you going to model the activity for them? Think about different ways that you can support your students and scaffold the learning till they complete the task. If you have finished the quiz, can you type in the chat box something cheerful like mango? It's a summer these days, and mango is Mango is the queen or king. I don't know if mango is a female or a male, but it's the queen/king of the summer fruit. So when you finish the quiz, please come back to the chat box and type in mango.
No mango so far, but I'm
Okay.
sure we'll get some soon.
Yeah, I think
What a shame.
teachers are enthusiastic about the topic, so they are still posting comments.
Ah, I see. Okay. Do you like mangoes, Noura?
Of course, who doesn't like mangoes?
Of course. You're absolutely right.
And the Egyptian ones.
Yes, they are delicious.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that Egyptian mangoes are well reputed for being delicious. We've got variety of mangoes, I agree. Like we've got like 10 types of mangoes, but I'm not sure they are the most delicious in the world.
I just remember it being one of the main things that I ate when I was there in July. It was years ago,
Right.
but it was one of the main foods that I survived off of.
Right. And speaking about accepting differences and agreeing, disagreeing, and showing respect, I'd like somebody to disagree with me and type in watermelon, for example. Just be different. Right. I'll move on till you finish the quiz. Rana, I know you've worked as a teacher in the past in Palestine, and Palestine has a very special geopolitical nature. Do you remember if you have very interesting incidents when students extremely disagreed with each other inside the class?
Oh yes. This might not be what you're expecting, but I mean, I did have one incident that it was probably maybe 8 years ago, but it still stands out in my mind. It was with a small group of learners, adults. I think there were only maybe 8 of them. And it was about the kind of gender roles at home. And one student was very insistent that that housework and cooking and that kind of thing was a woman's job. And one of the females got very, very upset. And she even left the classroom at one point. And I don't think it was really the actual opinion, but it was the way it was stated. And he almost made it personal because she had already expressed that in her home that these things were shared equally between herself and her husband. And that incident actually changed the way that I set these things up in my classroom, and the way I went over ground rules, and even the way I chose topics, not because I wanted to stay away from anything that might be controversial, but I was much more careful to make sure that things wouldn't be made personal. So there have been other incidents, but that one in particular stands out in my mind to this day.
This is a very useful example, Rana.
Yeah, there was a similar one about a similar case where a male student, I mean, I'm a female teacher, and a male student stood up and said that he doesn't think women should work after they get married. And so, I mean, even I felt offended by that.
I mean, I'm sure he didn't mean anything undecent or offensive to you. But again, back to your point, you said a very interesting point about the way they state it. Here comes the role of using useful phrases and training the students on using useful phrases, because this is happening in their second language. Whatever debates or dialogues or roundtable discussions, this is happening inside the classroom, the language classroom, in their second language. And this might be challenging for them to express their opinion clearly without any confusion, without causing any hard feelings to anybody. Here comes the benefit and the value of training the students on using useful language and studying the language and studying the phrases and knowing which phrase in which situation they need to use. Have we got any mangoes so far?
We've got lots of mangoes.
Nice.
We've got an anonymous watermelon and a watermelon from Abdullah Ibrahim. So
cool. I like this agreement, and I think it's beautiful when people disagree by responding using fruit. Like, I disagree with you, and here is a watermelon. That's cute. Right. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed the exercise, the online quiz, and I hope you enjoyed thinking about mangoes and watermelons as well. Moving on to the next part of the webinar, we're talking about the 8 golden rules of a dialogue. So if you'd like to have a diplomatic dialogue where everybody benefits from it, there are 8 golden rules as suggested by NiK Peachey. NiK Peachey has done a lot of work on soft skills, active listening, and dialogues versus debates. So there are 8 golden rules you can see on the screen. Be curious, only speak for yourself, etc., etc. I want you to look carefully at the 8 icons on the screen while I'm reading out the description of each of them. Then I want you to match the description I read out to one of the golden rules. Type in your answer in the chat box. Okay, so I'll read out. You can't see what I'm reading. Listen to me carefully, then select the right golden rule, then type the number in the chat box. Try to listen more than you speak, and when you speak, it should be to ask or answer a question. Do we have any answers, Rana?
we're still getting mangoes. But I'm sure they'll come through.
Right, I'll repeat just in case. Try to listen more than you speak, and when you speak, it should be to ask or answer a question. That's very straightforward.
I think we're still okay. We've got Dina Ali has said 7.
Excellent, Dina. Correct answer. I'll read out the next one. Make sure there is time for silence, thought, and reflection.
We're still getting, they're coming, it's taking them just a moment to come in. We've got somebody saying 3.
No, sorry.
It's 4.
It's 5.
Okay, we just got a 5 in.
Oh, cool. Well done for the 5. One more and I'll move on. Speak from our own personal perspective and about your own honest opinions, and try to use I feel or I believe rather than we feel or we believe. That's a very useful tip indeed. I'll repeat again. Speak from our own personal perspectives and about your own honest opinions, and try to use I feel or I believe rather than we feel or we believe.
We've got a 3.
No.
We got 9 from Aisha.
9.
Oh, there's no.
These are
Sorry,
only
there's
8. Eight golden rules.
A 2. Is it 2?
Yes, 2 is correct answer. And I think I can relate when I was collecting feedback from my students in the past. I really got annoyed when somebody say we think, like you're giving feedback about what you think. Don't say we, say I. And I think this is a very useful tip. Anyway, I leave you to read or take a screenshot of the 8 golden rules. Be curious, only speak for yourself, listen without judgment. That's very important. Just listen neutrally. Don't make any judgments. Don't interrupt. This is also very important. Take turn. Do not interrupt. Make time for reflection. Reflection, speculation, and thinking are quite important. Be equal. Make sure there is no hierarchy or status. Everyone in the room are the same. Listen more than you speak. Respect the truth of others. Rona, is there a particular tip from the 8 golden rules that you consider your top tip today?
I think it's that respect the truth of others. And if I could just extend it, respect the truth and feelings of others.
Yeah.
I think everyone's personal truth and everyone's feelings are valid. And you can't try to argue with them about their own truth and their feelings.
Very true. I think these 8 golden rules are quite essential to teach in our classes. This is not only English content. This is not only juicy vocabulary. This is essential soft skills. This is essential life skills. I think we need to teach this in the class. Right, the next activity is assumptions. This activity is very interesting indeed. I want you to look at the 4 pictures. What can you see in the pictures? Very quickly in the chat box. So after you look at the pictures, you give answers like a young girl, cute, lovely eyes, handsome guy, nice t-shirt. He reminds me of a Turkish actor, I think, but I know no Turkish actors' names. A lady with glasses and perhaps a Buddhist monk, maybe. So I want you now to imagine you're meeting these people on the street. You don't know them, they don't know you. And imagine how they will interact with you. So when you meet them, what do you think they will tell you? And how would you interact or respond to them? Please write down your answers in the chat box. For some reason, I felt if I meet the little girl on the street, I think they will say something sad. I don't know why, but she would tell me something like she's lost and she doesn't know how to go back home and she wants some help. I don't know. This is how I felt.
Really? When I saw her picture, it just reminded me of what happens to me so often when I'm out. And it's just that these cute little kids will just stare at me like I'm this stranger or alien that's landed from Mars. And then when I look at them, they just will kind of start giggling and turn away. And I just always immediately say hi to them or hello, sometimes in English to freak them out a little bit. But that was what I thought of when I saw her, is those kids who just kind of stare and start, giggling a little bit.
Right. I also felt like the Buddhist monk will stop me and say, "Hey, do you know how to go to the pyramids?" For some reason, this guy feels like he really wants to go to the pyramids. I would feel so enthusiastic and I start giving him directions. So do we get some responses in the chat box?
Sarah said that she thinks the cute girl will ask her if she's lost.
No.
Miriam saying that she thinks the lady would tell her she needs to work until she proves people wrong. So yeah, she's got that kind of powerful and motivating look on her face. Khaled thinks the adult, I think he's talking about the adult male, seems confused. Yeah, he does look a little bit confused, scratching his head, staring off. Sarah said the guy will ask her for, I guess, where a cafe is that he's supposed to meet his dudes in. Hussein said maybe he'll ask, how can I get to the airport, please?
Right. So what we did now is that we made assumptions about those people, right? We don't know them. We imagined what topics they will talk to us about and what questions they will ask us about. These are all assumptions. Perhaps we made those assumptions based on our prior experience with them, their hair color, their skin color, the way they look. But actually, these guys will ask you one question. They will ask you, they will tell you they dropped some money on the ground and they will ask you if you've seen this money. So the point of the activity is that you make your learners aware of their pre-assumptions and that they can make judgments on people without knowing them. It's a nature of the human mind, but education steps in and tames how the human brain functions, and tames and tones down the wild assumptions that we can make about people we don't know. Anyway, so that was one example of activities on assumptions. We came to the end of our webinar today. We covered the pros and cons of using debates in classrooms. There are some benefits, there are some academic, linguistic benefits of using debates in the classrooms, but the downsides and the harm that debates can cause to the students, especially in some specific countries, some specific contexts, should be considered. We also talked about the differences between debates and dialogues. And we talked about the importance of boosting dialogue skills in the classroom, the features and the roles of a healthy dialogic teacher and student. And we ended the webinar with some practical ideas to boost dialogue in the classroom. I'll leave you also with a couple of useful resources. Check out NiK Peachey's page. He writes and publishes some useful articles, but also he also shares some for free lessons that you can use in your classrooms. Also, I found classroom.synonym.com is a good academic source for research done on the use of debates in the classrooms. And as I told you last webinar, I started to use and check out the blog from Iris Connect. This is a very interesting blog done by Iris Connect about developing effective dialogic teaching and classroom talk. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rana, for moderating my session today. Thanks, Noura, Asil, and Amira for working behind the scene. Thank you very much.